In the village of Sapa Kingdom, the sun rose each day to reveal a sleepy world of mud huts and dusty roads. People lived simple lives, with quiet routines and predictable days. But in the center of this village was a woman who didn't quite fit the mold. Coco, with her full hips and bold presence, ran the busiest stall in the market. It wasn't her beauty or her charm that drew the crowd. It was her buns, golden and soft, filled with spicy beef or sweet coconut cream. Her buns were like nothing the villagers had ever tasted. It didn't matter what they said behind her back. "She's too fat. She wears too much makeup. She's a disgrace," they whispered. But when it was time to buy, everyone was lining up at Coco's buns. Still, despite the crowd that gathered daily at her stall, there was a feeling in the air, a subtle resentment. She was the woman who had something they all wanted but didn't quite love. She sold the best buns in the village, but she never quite fit the picture they wanted to see. Coco knew it. The whispers never stopped. But she had built her stall from the ground up, and every morning she pulled her trouser tighter and threw her shoulders back as she yelled, "Hot buns! Fresh and sweet! Get 'em while they're hot!" Everything was going fine until Titi appeared. One day, a tall, slender girl with striking features set up a stall right across from Coco's. She had smooth skin that seemed to glow and a quiet, graceful demeanor that immediately turned heads. Her beauty was undeniable, her presence magnetic. It wasn't long before Coco noticed the change. People started drifting from her stall, flocking to Titi's bun stand, which was far more modest than hers. The new girl didn't shout, didn't call out with exaggerated flair. But the villagers, they were enchanted and ran to her store. They whispered and giggled as they handed their money to Titi in exchange for some hot buns. Coco's once bustling stall now had only a handful of customers. "Her buns must be better," they said. "Did you see how she looks? She's perfect," someone whispered. Coco watched, her chest tight with something she couldn't quite name. Was it jealousy? Was it insecurity? Continued, Coco barely sold anything for months. She tried to know where Titi lived so she could ask her for some tips or perhaps find out what her recipe was. But she never saw where Titi's house was. It was almost like Titi fell from the sky. Then one day, as Titi packed up her stall to leave, Coco's curiosity got the better of her. She decided to follow. At first, she kept her distance, walking silently through the village streets, watching as Titi moved through the woods at the edge of the village. But what could the new girl want out here? She wasn't hunting for herbs. There were no markets in the woods. So what was she doing here? Coco followed Titi until she came to a secluded part of the forest, where she saw something that chilled her to the bone. Titi wasn't alone. A tall old man stood beside a small shrine, an eerie place filled with symbols and trinkets. Titi kneeled before him, chanting in a language Coco didn't understand, as the man poured dark liquid into a small bowl. The air crackled with something strange, something heavy. Titi was performing a ritual. She was using magic, dark magic, to make her buns irresistible. The secret to her success wasn't her beauty or her buns. It was witchcraft. Coco's heart skipped a beat. She had to leave. But as she turned to flee, Titi's sharp eyes caught hers. "You've been watching, haven't you?" Titi's voice was like honey, but there was a coldness to it. Before Coco could even blink, Titi grabbed her arm, dragging her toward the shrine. The old man smiled darkly. "You should have stayed away," he said, his voice grating like stones. "Now you'll suffer." Coco struggled, but it was no use. The magic wrapped around her like a vice. She was trapped. That night, Coco was locked inside a small, cold room deep within the shrine. Her heart pounded as she realized the depth of her mistake. She had seen too much. They would kill her, she was sure of it. Tears filled her eyes as she sat in the darkness. What could she do? She was alone. There was no one to save her. But then, as the hours stretched on, she heard something. The softest sound. It was a creak, a whisper. As the door creaked open, a figure appeared in the shadows. It was Cola. Cola, the man who had always been kind to her. The man who had helped her with her stall. He was here in the heart of the forest, and he had come to save her. "I've been following you," Cola said softly, kneeling beside her. "I knew that something was wrong. I couldn't just let you go alone." With his help, Coco escaped the shrine. They ran through the dark forest, their only goal to get back to the village. Once back in the village, they went straight to the king's palace, and Coco told him everything. The king listened intently, and within moments, he sent his guards to the forest to capture Titi and the native doctor. But by the time they reached the shrine, Titi and the doctor had already fled into the deeper woods, trying to escape. The guards chased them through the dark, and soon, they were captured and brought back to the village square. The villagers gathered, murmuring as Titi and the native doctor were dragged before them. The king's voice rang out, condemning their actions. "Witchcraft has no place in my kingdom," he declared. "These two will be punished for deceiving the village." The villagers cheered. Coco's name was praised, and Cola's bravery was celebrated. The whispers stopped. No one insulted Coco anymore. She was no longer just the bun lady in the corner of the market. She was the woman who had saved the village from evil. Her business boomed once more. The villagers came back, and her stall became the most popular in Sapa village. Coco's life changed. She no longer needed to hide behind makeup or prove herself to anyone. Her buns were famous. But more importantly, she was famous, no longer for her looks, but for her strength, her courage, and the truth she uncovered. And as for Cola, he was by her side always. The two of them, hand in hand, built a future as sweet as her buns. The end.